But yeah, I do agree with you about Chris Collinsworth, and I get accused of this all the time, John. Anytime I give any Cam Newton praise, people take it as Mac Jones bashing, and it's really not. I really like Mac Jones. To me, I don't think it's really difficult to dislike Mac Jones. I mean, like, he doesn't do anything really to make anybody upset. I mean, it's no reason to dislike him. But I am of the opinion, John, that the Patriots would have a better record if Cam Newton was a quarterback. And I'm not saying that Cam's like necessarily like, oh, he's a much better player than Mac. I think from a stylistic standpoint, and when you look at the roster that the Patriots have, the Patriots are not built to be a team based off of an aerial attack. They're a grinded out, run first, defense oriented a team. The ability to play 11 on 11 at times with a mobile quarterback. And I think we saw, especially in week 1, there were drives that stalled inside the 20 that with Cam Newton as a weapon in those situations, you have more that you can do from an offensive standpoint. I hear everybody talking about, well, Cam's not an accurate passer and and I think a lot of that is just people listening to, unfortunately, other people like us and just simply looking at some other stuff and not actually watching the games. Was he inaccurate last year? For sure. But there was a lot that went on with last year. He had COVID. The Patriots had the worst receiving group in the NFL. He signed late, didn't get a lot of time to learn the system, no training camp, all of these different things. And I don't think he, really got a opportunity to play with this team as improved as they are. I think Mac Jones is definitely the future, but I think that Chris Collinsworth and a lot of other people are a little bit guilty of accelerating the future.
Yeah, no, I was looking at your Twitter earlier. I think it was this morning. I felt like you're still on the Cam Island, which I appreciate. I like anyone that's still there. And I'm curious because I go back and forth on this. If let's just say, whether you'd agree or not, if you think if Belichick's going to name Mac Jones a starter, should they have kept Cam on the roster, or do you think that they did the right thing to release him?
I understand why they released him, and I think it was pretty much what Cam said. He used some words and some colorful kind of, descriptions that may have been a distraction to people because he said, it was my aura, but
I got what he was saying, though. I didn't. Right. I understood people kind of ran with it, right? But
yeah, they kind of ran with it. But I got what he was saying, and I kind of agree. I do think that Mac Jones would have been somewhat uncomfortable with this guy whose presence is so huge, because Cam's not the kind of guy that's just going to sit on the sidelines and be still.
Exactly.
Cam's going to be up and down the sidelines. Guys are scoring touchdowns. He's running and jumping and all of this. And then here's the thing. When you get in the red zone, you're going to tell me that it wouldn't be tempting for Josh McDaniels or Bill Belichick to turn to Cam and go, you're the red zone quarterback.
Right.
Because of what he can do in that area of the field. So I understand, it's like a clean commit thing. But from a pure football standpoint, I think that the best way to do this would have been to have Cam as a starter, have Mac Jones as the backup. If Cam struggles, you bring Mac Jones in at that point. But ideally, you hope that Cam has a better year than he had last year, which I think he would have. And the team is competitive, contends to win the division. And then you turn it over completely to Mac Jones next year. The second best thing would have been, if you are going to pick Mac Jones, you keep Cam Newton on the roster. Here's the thing about Cam Newton. Cam Newton's at a situation in his career, he cannot really afford to be like a negative distraction. I don't think that's the way or kind of guy he is especially not at this point in his life anymore anyway. But he never was that even earlier in his career. But I don't think it behooves Cam Newton to be a detriment to a team's locker room or chemistry or anything like that. I think it behooves him to be a excellent teammate and an excellent backup, and to take the opportunity to play if it presents itself, because he wants obviously to play beyond this year. So I just feel like they made too hasty of a decision. I understand the thought process, but I think, it was a little bit ahead of its time.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess it just depends on how much of last year. It seems like you think last year, uh, in terms of COVID, and I almost said the COVID like I was Jerry Jones, like the Twitter.
The COVID.
He always talks about the COVID as if it's like this.
You
This
done got the 19.
Right, exactly, exactly. So anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but I guess it depends if you think last year, if last year was the ceiling for what Cam could bring to the Patriots, and you're saying it isn't. In Belichick's mind, I guess he's thinking if this is a ceiling, I'm okay taking a few less wins this season if we're probably not going to make the playoffs either way in either direction. But you seem a little bit more optimistic about the upside of Cam in year two, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it only makes sense, though. I mean, it's hard for me. And it's funny how people talk about Cam like he's like 44.
Right.
You know, like he's 32 years old. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's kind of like, why would I think that a veteran quarterback who's obviously very physically talented and, you know, has been in the league for as long as he's been, this is the first time he's ever been truly healthy, like in the last 2.5 to 3 years. He's had over an entire year to work in an offense. You've improved the weapons around him. You have a solid running game and then a vastly improved defense. Everything in the world points to the fact that he should be better than he was last year. So, I mean, even if he was the same guy as he was last year, they would be better.
Right.
Because of everything that's around them. So, and to me, I think it makes all the sense in the world to assume that he would be better because the circumstances are improved. So, I don't know, man. I feel like I don't think that Bill Belichick is necessarily guilty of what like many members of the media are, especially local media in New England, and you know, much of the fan base, because from the very beginning, Cam just did not fit, quote unquote, the Patriot way in their eyes. And I heard it full steam ahead all the time, just about every piece you write about or you cover about Cam, you just kept hearing this. He doesn't fit. He doesn't fit with not a, you know, this real ambiguous sort of a reference. He doesn't fit. He doesn't fit. So it's kind of like essentially there's a large percentage of people, or at least a loud percentage of people from Patriots Nation that never wanted Cam to play well there because they just did not. He didn't fit what their idea of a quarterback. Which, I mean, if you think about Brady, when you are the quarterback of some place, which hardly nobody will, I mean, Y.A. Tittle, nobody else has this kind of a run, right? With one franchise. There are adults in the Boston area who literally don't know anything about any other quarterback except for Tom Brady, except for the 1 year he got hurt and Matt Castle took over. So he's an institution. And he is the symbol of what represents success for them. And so because of that, man, I just feel like Cam, in one way, I'm a little bit, I think it's best for Cam to maybe go and play someplace else. But I understand the competitor in him has to accept the fact that this assignment ended before he got an opportunity to truly prove if he could succeed at it.
I mean, you know what's funny? I guess it's to move the conversation to what happens to him now. I've been writing for I guess it's like since he got released, and even before that, when they're talking like what's going to happen there if they go with Mac Jones, could they potentially trade him? Obviously, they released him, but I just feel like you have a team like the Cowboys. If you go back to the offseason, I mean, you're looking at Cooper Rush, Garrett Gilbert, and like a bag of Fritos, like in terms of the backup situation behind Dak. Then Dak gets a shoulder injury. So I know he's obviously looked amazing now, right? And they're kind of proving themselves right in some ways that he's fine. But if I'm looking at a quarterback that has significant ankle injury, then a month before the season, all of a sudden this shoulder thing's flaring up. And my big move is to claim Will Greer off of waivers. It's like, you know, why not make a play? Because in that situation, especially even if they did it now, Dak, there's not going to be talk where, hey, replace Dak with Cam Newton. Like with the way Dak's playing, he's playing as one of the best quarterbacks. There's not going to be that sort of discussion like there would have been with Mac Jones. I mean, to avoid, I don't want to make the conversation political. I guess the only real thing is if the Cowboys feel strongly about the vaccine and you're bringing a quarter, and especially the importance of the quarterback position, and you have that entire room vaccinated, that'd be, I guess, the only like question mark I would have would be willing to get vaccinated if it meant he gets the opportunity to play for the Cowboys, which is obviously the big. You're not starting, but you got the biggest stage for the rest of the season to showcase if he's going to end up being a backup for the rest of the season. So that's, to me, it's always kind of made a little bit of sense, but because I don't think you'd have that sort of Dak Prescott's not going to be worried about looking over his shoulder at Cam. I don't think. I don't know. That's just kind
of. I don't think any city or any of these franchises with a truly established quarterback who's 30 and under is worried about Cam Newton taking their job in the long term. Sure. Not with an established quarterback, and Dak would definitely fit that description. The only thing about Dak would be just worrying, wondering and hoping that he remains healthy. But if he's healthy, I think he's proven this year he's a top 5-6 quarterback in the league. So that kind of guy doesn't have to worry about it. And I don't even think that's the best landing spot for Cam. I think you're looking at places like Houston, and I always wonder whether or not that would be an issue with Cam because him and Deshaun Watson are so close. Right. And so there's obviously a situation there with Deshaun and the Texans. But I think that's the thing. I mean, Davis Mills threw like 172 interceptions yesterday. So it's like
he might still be throwing interceptions. That's what we're talking.
I caught one of them. So, but they just got me before I took it to the house. But it's just it was tough. Ben Roethlisberger, it's so hilarious, right? Ben Roethlisberger to me looks worse than Cam Newton looked last year, but it's like he gets a pass, and I don't understand. Ben, oh my God, it's tough out here for Ben right now. It really is. And so Ben Roethlisberger's the Pittsburgh Steelers are another team where I think you would literally have to take a look. The Washington football team is another one. I do like Taylor Heineke, and I do think they should give him an opportunity, a little bit more of an opportunity. Give him a 3 to 5 game sort of a look, but I don't know, man. We'll see what happens with Cam. A good thing for Cam is that he and some people would say this is a bad thing. Cam has other things, so this is not a livelihood that he has to have, and if he doesn't have it, him and his kids are going to starve. He's cool, but at the same token, I would love to see him get another opportunity to come out and show and prove one way or the other if my career is truly done, because there's a lot of people that are throwing dirt on this 32, 33-year-old quarterback to me, it prematurely. Like, I mean, Cam did not have a great season last year. I don't think any sane person would argue that. But I've seen far worse seasons by older quarterbacks with not as many physical tools, and I haven't seen as much dirt thrown on them as I have seen on Cam.
It was interesting, and this isn't a fantasy football show, but I make this reference just because I think it helps. Like this offseason, I spent anywhere I had a team. If I had a chance to get Heineke on my team, I snatched him up because the way people were talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick was like, we know this story. Right. Like it's literally played off of half the NFL. This guy, he's not a bad quarterback. No. But what's the ceiling? What's the ceiling with Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, it's low. It's a low.
It's just tough because I think if you're going to sign Cam, and you're going to sign him in one of those teams you mentioned where you're going to say we're going to give you a chance to start, you got to commit the whole system to it, really take advantage of everything he brings to the table. It can't be one of those like 3-game trials, right? I think if you really want to see what he can bring, and to be honest, I don't know. I don't know if he still has it, but I would rather see someone like him get the chance over like a guy like Fitz, where I know how that story kind of ends.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the team, right? I think if you have a team that is, you have elite wide receivers or upper echelon wide receivers, tight ends, you have all these pass catching backs, and you're a passing offense primarily, then I honestly would probably take Ryan Fitzpatrick over Cam Newton because that fits. But if I have a team that is a big physical offensive line, I got a running game, I got a solid number one wide receiver and a dependable tight end. If I'm looking at a team like that, if we have an offensive coordinator and if we have enough versatility and flexibility from a play calling and scheme standpoint, where say for instance we were already running some RPO, but because of the quarterback we had, traditionally we're going with the P more than the R with the RPO and going with the P more than the R or the O, then that might not be as much of a transition as it may appear, because now we're just doing something different. Like, yes, is there some transition? There is. But when you're going to a backup quarterback, or when you're going to a second or third string kind of guy, there's a little bit of a change anyway, because usually the backup guy has maybe some sort of a slightly different or a different skill set. So it a lot of it does come down to cohesion. But if Cam gets an opportunity, it's going to be kind of like somebody breaking, in case of emergency, break glass sort of a situation at this point. So it'll be interesting, man. But